At the New Jersey SBDC Network, our mission is simple: to help businesses grow and succeed. Our consulting, training, and information services make it easier for businesses to reach their potential. Whether you're currently in operation or just starting out, we have the right tools, resources, and expertise to help you succeed. Visit us online to get started on your path to success today.
A pleasant good afternoon to everyone. My name is Takoa Bell. I am one of the event coordinators for the NJS BDC at Rutgers-Newark. And on behalf of Dr. Tendai Enduro, our regional director, I would like to welcome you all to our Fundamentals of Digital Marketing webinar. For those of you here that may be unfamiliar with the SBDC, it stands for Small Business Development Centers. And here at the New Jersey Small Business Development Centers at Rutgers-Newark, we serve as the premier provider of business training and technical assistance services to establish small businesses, startups, and as well as to entrepreneurs. We are one of 12 centers in the NJS BDC network, and we service those within Essex County. Our center here is hosted by the Rutgers Business School and funded through a public-private partnership agreement between the Small Business Administration, Rutgers University, and the New Jersey Business Action Center. Our mission here is to help entrepreneurs as well as business owners start and grow sustainable, successful businesses through the delivery of one-on-one business consulting, training, and technical assistance programs. Now, these services are provided to you at no cost and are paid for by your tax dollars. If you or your business is located in Essex County, our website is www.rnsbdc.com. And on our website, you can request counseling by clicking on the top right-hand corner. There's a button labeled Request Counseling. So when you go ahead and click on that button, it will lead you to fill out some information about your business, including the help you are seeking. And within 24 to 48 business hours, one of our consultants will reach out to you for an assessment. And for those of you here that may not be in Essex County, our headquarters website is www.njsbdc.com. And on that website, you can go ahead and type in your local county, and it will refer you to your SBDC office within your county. And now, for the benefit of everyone attending today's webinar, we will be taking questions via the chat and the Q&A feature here on Zoom. So please feel free to ask and post your questions, and we will do our best to respond during or at the end of today's webinar. A copy of the presentation slides, along with a video replay of this webinar, will be emailed to you within 48 to 72 business hours so that you can long refer to all this information after the webinar has ended. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you all our presenter for today's webinar, Cecilia Henderson. Cecilia is the CEO and owner of WSI Marketing Edge and is an SBDC consultant here at the NJS BDC at Rutgers-Newark in the area of digital marketing, social media, and brand development. And now, without further ado, I will turn today's webinar over to Cecilia.
Thank you, Takoa. I'm going to begin to share my screen, but you have to stop sharing. Okay, thank you. All right, let's get out. Let's get out. Everything is up that is not supposed to be up. Here we go. All right, so our class today, our focus today is on fundamentals of digital marketing. And we have 90 minutes. I'm going to give an overview of what digital marketing is and how the different moving parts might work together, and some of the key considerations that you need to think about when you start to use the tools of digital marketing to communicate about your business with your prospects and your customers. So as background, I have a digital marketing company myself, but my background overall is in marketing and the marketing process. And I did that for quite some time. And at a certain point decided to go into business for myself and focus on the digital side. So I can be reached at the SBDC, and I'm one of the consultants with the SBDC. So why this is so important is because, of course, we know that we've been through COVID-19. It feels like 2 years now. We've made a lot of fundamental changes. We know that what we thought was going to be a temporary, 2 or 3 week, let's stay at home and everything will go away, is actually not that. And there have been some fundamental changes, in fact, in the way that people have begun to do business. It's innovation that is a good thing. And some of that innovation is not going to go away because COVID is lessening or COVID is, quote unquote, going away. So what we think is that your online presence is really critical. The reason why we have the kind of marketing and presence and communications that we do is because we should be putting the customer at the center of that. And when you think about your customer, safety and comfort is really very important. And when people become accustomed to some kinds of conveniences, you don't want to take them away. I mean, case in point, one of the restaurants that we go to, they had outdoor dining. Well, they have not actually been able to do outdoor dining. And it's been a big disappointment to a number of people who will not eat indoors at this point in time. So, they are trying to see if they can staff up to provide that outdoor dining because it was becoming an expectation. It was a way that some people were getting out of their homes. So, again, people became accustomed to certain types of things that were accommodating their needs, and you don't really want to have to draw them back. So as we, really look at this, we know that we can do a lot of different things online. Your presence there is critical. It's where a lot of people are. What can we do? We can obviously do consultations. I mean, if you've heard about even medical visits happening online. Customer service can happen online. Obviously, shopping can happen online. And so if you are trying to provide or interact or interface with a customer base, no matter what you're doing, an online presence seems to be really just part of the deal. And essentially, it seems to have almost fast forwarded any kind of online movements that were happening anyway. People who didn't know how to turn on their computers are now on Zoom. So when it comes to what digital marketing is, essentially all this is really leveraging the tools of the internet to get to your target audience. And what are those tools? Different kinds of platforms, whether it is, your website, your social media, your advertising that you might do online, and your email. Those are the 4 biggest buckets that there are out there in terms of, just internet-based or digital marketing. So as we're thinking about digital marketing, you think about the same things that you think about with traditional marketing. In fact, nowadays, you wouldn't separate the two. All of this planning for digital and anything that you might do that is traditional should be done at the same time and should be with the same customer in mind. There should be alignment between what you're doing online and what you're doing not online, because all of the cumulative exposure to your business is what is going to help educate your prospects and your customers about your business. We tend to think of the selling journal and the buying journal journey this way. At the very top of a funnel is the universe. This is everybody in the world. But yet we know that there are only some people that might be aware of us. And then below that, you have some people that might develop an interest in perhaps the product category or the services that we provide. And then they may decide that they really want to acquire them. And then finally, they take action. That taking action is buying, ultimately. But taking action could also be in exploring, any move that you want a customer to make in the direction of making a purchase is an action. But the ultimate action is to, make that exchange in terms of the monetary value and receiving the service or the product. The other thing that I want you to think about is that when you think about marketing, digital marketing included, you have a plan. Your plan is a time-bound plan. Something's going to happen at a certain point in time. And when you want to lay out that plan because you want to communicate what you're planning to do, or lay out so that you can see, well, What am I supposed to be doing and when am I supposed to do it? This is one of the ways or tools that you can use. You just basically lay out a calendar by month across the top. So this goes from January to December. And then here are all the potential tools. This is not an exhaustive list, but this is the list that I have, for example. So if you're talking about the digital world, you got your website, your email, your social media, which could be Facebook, Instagram, it could be TikTok, it could be whatever you want to use. And then you've got your Google ads, which would be online advertising. And then maybe on the same plan, you have other things that you're doing that are not online. Like you might be going to a trade show, or you might be having a webinar, or going to a networking event, or going to someplace where you have a table and you're talking about your product. You could have a PR activity, like having somebody write a press release for you. So what you're doing, and so you put all of your activities here, you lay them out in a way that you can calendarize it and see what you're going to do when. And then that gives you a sense of the level of activity that you have planned. And when you start to then write about what you've laid out, that ends up being your tactical marketing plan. Okay, that's going to be driven by your strategy. It's going to be driven by your objectives, who your customers are. But then, okay, in January, we plan to do 3 events. We're going to have the website launch. We're going to set up our Facebook page. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Our next major push is going to be in May, in which we do X, Y, and Z. So that's basically your tactical plan. These are the things that you want to do for your business. But let's not do this in a vacuum, because anything that you do has a budget attached to it. So whether that budget is, and most of the time it's going to be dollars, you're going to spend, you're going to buy a website or have somebody develop it for you. You may have an email campaign and you don't write, you don't really want to be involved in it, but maybe you're going to pay somebody to do that. Anytime that you have something that you're executing on the tactical side, you have to understand what the dollars are attached to that. If you decide that this is something that you can do yourself, and, you know, practically speaking, most of you are probably not in the marketing business, you're in some other kind of business. And so whatever you do is going to take you a little while. You're either going to have dollars associated because you paid somebody, or you're going to have time associated with it because it is time that you are not doing your core business. So you're going to have to put together a budget that incorporates that. So you understand, well, how much am I really planning on spending? So what does this tactical plan look like in terms of dollars, and what does it look like in terms of time? And do I have it? Generally speaking, I've never seen anybody who says I can't spend all my marketing money. Usually it's I got more stuff to do than I can shake a stick at, or than I can fund. And so that's where you prioritize and you say, these are the critical few that I must do, and then everything else is a nice to have. And you essentially take that prioritization and draw a line where your budget stops. And that's how your final marketing plan is created, the tactical aspects of that plan. So I just want to make sure that you understand that when we talk about digital marketing, you need to be thinking about it in traditional marketing sense, where you have a tactical plan and there are certain things that you're going to do at certain times of the year. Like it's December, so when they come to the website, I want them to see a big Christmas tree. And I'm also going to send out my Christmas mailer. Oh, and in November, I'm actually going to send out that I have a Christmas offering, because, you know, it's a holiday offering and they can take advantage of it and get the gift certificate or whatever it is they get. So you're counting back from when you expect it to happen so that you understand when the activity is going to start, but you also know, and here's how much it's going to cost me. So I think it's just important to understand that that same discipline that we use in traditional marketing sense, you know, whether it's putting together a brochure or a flyer or a postcard mailer, is the same process for digital marketing. So now what I want to do is I'm going to kind of delve into the different components. I talked about, you know, the website, the social media, the advertising, and email. I want to talk to you about, you know, some of the considerations when you're thinking about a website. This is relevant whether you already have one or whether you're thinking about getting one. Because if you have one, you always need to be critical of whether it is achieving what you need it to achieve, And let's not be with the fallacy of I have my website, it'll be fine if I don't touch it for the next 5 years. Things change and you need to change with those things. And so you may need to make adjustments, or it may be that what you did or what you thought about when you first started working on your business has really evolved and you have a totally new audience. And it almost means that you have to do a redo in order to really be relevant. And so that your website doesn't look very different from the things that you're actually telling people right now, today, and going forward. If you don't have a website, then you want to have these considerations for thinking about how you develop them. But first, I want to just say why we should have a website. Basically, it is the one place that communicates your story in the way that you want it done. It's going to describe you and your services, and it really helps to tell how you solve customer problems. And so the customer problem is, I need new shoes. It needs to be apparent when they come to the website that you sell shoes. That's the solution. So problem, solution. If they have to guess because we're being too beautiful or something, that's a problem, because people don't have time to go down that journey that you might be willing to go down because it's your brand. You really have to think about it from the customer's point of view. But what are all the things? You could provide customer education. What is that? That's like a blog page or frequently asked questions page. You could enable people to make appointments with you. You could do e-commerce, which means you can sell while you sleep. You can answer questions, whether it's that frequently asked questions page or even adding a chat bot to your website. So the website has a lot of functionality. And when you're thinking about this, you need to think about who your audience is. One of the biggest, most daunting things that some people have is talking about their business, and the website talks about their business. And so it's a tangible representation, and people do think of them as static, and you almost can become tongue-tied because you don't really, there's so many things you want to say, but you have to cut through all of that and just say, who's your audience and what are they expecting? You also can inform what you want to do by looking at what your competitors are doing. What's the main thing that you want your customers to do when they are visiting your website? So we look at the competitors to say, well, here's how other people have handled this challenge. And then you say, okay, how will I handle this challenge? And is there something that I've learned from what they're doing? Or is there something I don't like about what they're doing? But then it is, what do you want somebody to do when they come to your site? If you're a law firm, for example, maybe the main thing that you want somebody to do is to click and call you, or to fill out the contact us form so that they can set up an appointment with you. If you are a hairstylist, maybe you want them to make an appointment with you, or maybe you want them to do the same thing, click to call. On the other hand, if you are selling CBD products or something like that, maybe you want them to buy because it's an e-commerce site. So that's a consideration. You've got to start thinking about that main thing that you want them to do. Anything else that you put there aside from that main thing is, in a sense, detracting from the main thing. This is not a website is not a place where you go, I want to tell them this too, and I want to tell them that too, and I also sell flowers, and it's too much, because we'll talk a little bit about some of the metrics, but there's very little time that you have with each of your prospects. So once again, why do they need you? Why would they need to come to you? And are you addressing their pain point? Remember, the pain point is a need or a gap. So if I need shoes, that's my pain point. If I need shoes of a certain size, or I want children's shoes, but my daughter has a very large foot, I don't want her in adult shoes. I want her in shoes that are appropriate for her age. That's a pain point. Okay. So we talked a little bit about this, just a roundabout, because of the things that somebody might want to do on your website. But yeah, how do you envision a website supporting your business? What are the key attributes you want your website to have? Is it an e-commerce site? Do you envision ever needing to ever do that? Is it 100% e-commerce? Is it hosting a lot of videos because you're a videographer? Do you want them to be able to download things because maybe you have a lot of tip sheets because you're a coach and you might be talking about how to handle stress or something like that? Or is there e-learning and you want them to be able to pay and go through a link to a class that you teach that is a streaming class. And then you also need to decide, am I going to do my own website or am I going to outsource it? So this is the classic make versus buy. Every company has this. If I do it myself, I either have to have the skills and capability and the time to do it, or I pay somebody who knows how to do it. Because remember, if it's going to take you 20 hours, think about how much you might get paid over that 20 hours at your hourly rate. It may be worth it for you to go and buy it. So that's where a decision needs to be made. And everybody has their own capabilities and skill sets and personal level of frustration with learning new things, dealing with technology. And some of these things aren't maybe all that technical, but they're technical enough. So when you think about your website, the nice thing about websites, and one of the reasons why I went into the digital side of marketing, is because there are metrics and you can see how you're doing. So one of the most common things that people think about is traffic. You know, how many people came to the website? How many pages did they go to when they got to the website? There's something called a bounce rate. That is, I came to the website, didn't see what I expected to see, and I left. Or I thought that I typed in a certain address, but I typed in a different address. Your URL is so close to somebody else's, it's a mistaken hit. And then there's the conversion. The conversion is the action you want the customer to take. So we go back to what's the objective. That's the conversion. If the objective is, I want you to make an appointment with me, that's a conversion. If the objective is, I want you to buy something from me, that's a conversion. Of course, the ultimate conversion is the purchase. So there are these analytics that you need to be thinking about. And the reason why I brought them up is because it sets up an understanding of how people actually use websites. So while we might like to think that people just come to your website and peruse, it doesn't really happen like that. A good visit time for a website page is about 2 to 3 minutes. And that seems really, really short, especially when you've spent a lot of time building, you know, the content and everything. But that is the way it is. Some visits are seconds, other visits are hours. It really depends on what's on a page. You know, if I'm just going to make sure that I have the right phone number, or I'm just going to get the address, or download something really quick, you know, I can do that in under 2 minutes. Hours might be I'm reading the blog, or I am, you know, I'm just referring back to some more complex information that you have on the page. It really is going to be driven by what kind of information you have. Maybe you have something that's interactive, or some type of survey or something like that. That could be there as well. But the bottom line is to consider that the average person coming there has a short attention span. Something else is always competing for your customer's attention. And so you have to capture it in some way. So if the good visit time for a website is about 2 or 3 minutes, and there's only a couple of pages for each session that a person actually has with your website, people don't actually go through, you know, a 5 or a 20 page website from start to finish. That's why you need navigation. You navigate through the menu at the top, or through cues throughout the website, or links in the website, but you never want it to be too hard for somebody to do what you want them to do. So I'm sorry, if you want them to make an appointment, they should only be 1 click away from making an appointment. That's just the way it is. So that's why I said these other kinds of information that you might be putting out, you want to put just enough information to make them want to make an appointment. You're not trying to bombard them with so much information that they'd have to, you know, get a cup of coffee and read your website. That's just not, frankly, the way they're used. The other thing to think about with your website is that when you launch your website, the level of traffic you get, just organic traffic coming from, I searched for a topic and I got a bunch of results from Google and I clicked on one of those results. So that doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen just because you launched it and you think you're the only website out there that says the same thing. First, it needs to be indexed by the search engines. So Google, which is really the market leader in the US, needs to know what's on that website. But then ultimately, over time, you need to earn the right to be shown on the first page of results. It is not something that happens overnight. So there is this activity called search engine optimization, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. That's one of the ways that you try to earn your way to the top of the results, or at least to the first page of results. So somebody types in, I'm looking for a psychiatrist. You'd like to be on that first page. When you first launch, you're not going to be on the first page. You may be on the first page for your name or something very, very specific. But if we're looking for the category and you're looking for the person that does not know you or does not know about your website to come to your website and learn about you, that is a bigger mountain to climb. So that's what search engine optimization is. On the other hand, there's paid advertising. I don't know whether you've noticed this, and I will show you some search results, but whenever you do a search result, usually the first 2 or 3 items that you see, 3 or 4 items that you see on a page are ads. People pay to be at the top of the page. And that's one way to do it. That is not earning your way to the top. So you could launch your website tomorrow. You could do a Google ads the next day. You can be at the top of the page. When you stop paying for your Google ads, you will go back to page number 25 or 1000, depending on where you rank, immediately. You don't get any benefit other than when you are paying for it. So that's why SEO is kind of a more systemic way. It's a set of activities that over time will help you move a little bit higher. So I just want you to understand with the website how it's used, how it will work, especially when you first start versus, over time when you kind of earn your way to a reputation that is driven by, how people are interacting with your website and what you're doing with it yourself. Now, I am going to talk about SEO, but I want to talk to you about social media first, because social media works in conjunction with your website to get you some good visibility. And I think when we talk about search engine optimization, it's often talked about solely in the focus of your website, but ultimately the objective here is to get found. And if you're getting found because of your social media in combination with your website, that's just fine. Money is green. So social media I want to talk about too, because a lot of people would say, well, social media is not a very professional place to be, and I'm a professional. Why do I even need presence there? They do support publishing and syndicating information that you might have on your website. So imagine that you have a blog on your website. How are you going to let people know that the blog is there? Well, unless you call up all your friends and your business associates. The other way that you can do it is you post the link on LinkedIn. And people who see your post on LinkedIn might come to your blog. That's how you get people that you don't necessarily know come into your website. So remember that social media is this tool that people use. They can use it to validate what they might have heard about your business. And so in a way, you can think of any place that has a search window like Facebook or YouTube. It's a search engine. So if you type in a topic, you are going to get a set of results. Same with social media. So it's just like Google. The other thing that people do is they crowdsource. So you may have seen people reach out and say, does anybody know a plumber in the town of Passaic or something like that? And suddenly you'll get a bunch of responses. That's crowdsourcing a solution. And there has been some disruption with social media. Lots of changes in usage patterns. People that were not at home on social media are now on it. So very interesting place to be. One of the first questions that I get asked about it is, how do you decide which platforms are appropriate for your business? Because again, some people think I shouldn't be on it at all because I'm a business and social media is for fun. Maybe with the exception of LinkedIn, which is a whole special case. But you really should be choosing based on the demographic of your target audience. So if you're going after certain types of demographics that tend to be younger, maybe it is a Snapchat type of world for them, and maybe that's relevant for your business. It's kind of hard to know until you know who your business target audience is. But there is data out there, and this is just something that I pulled off of Google. I said, social media demographics, and it can kind of tell you a little bit about how widely used some of these platforms are, what the split is between male and female, some ethnic information, age information. I think the age information and the income information is probably some of the best information out there when it comes to really just trying to understand, well, is this worth my time, or who am I talking to on these different platforms? So when it comes to social media, there are some best practices. You do need to define your objectives of what you're trying to accomplish. So again, we're thinking of social media, and I didn't say this before, it's like a town square. This is where people are. This is where people hang out. What will you say to somebody who doesn't know about your business? What do you want them to walk away with? Now, over time, they can walk away with that impression. You're not going to be able to tell them that in one post, but once you start to post, you may put something out there. This is the scenario. You put something out there that attracts somebody, and they go, I need to know more about this business. And they may click on the link and actually end up on your social media page. And as they look at what you've been posting, they get a more fuller picture of what it is you do. And then that is really, that full picture is what you'd like them to take away about your business. How engaged you are with your customers, the kinds of things that you do, the places that you work, the kind of customers that you serve. You can leverage all of the different strengths of social media platforms to do this. So sometimes it is just a written post. Other times you might want to use a video. You might want to use some of the newer features that are coming out all the time. But there are some other best practices, which are, you're on social media, people are kind of relaxing, but if you are, for example, a lawyer, and you might be, trying to reach a certain type of client, that client is probably on social media a good portion of, fairly regularly. What is the kind of information you should share? You should actually share information that a client can use. You should not be on there saying, I'm a lawyer, call me. You want that to be the lesser part of what you do. What's most important is to share content more than you promote your business or yourself. Sharing is a form of promotion, but it is not an intrusive form of promotion. So it's almost like, when the phone rings and it's a telemarketer, they're going to sell you something, so you don't pick up the phone. You don't want it so that if your firm is posting, they don't even look at it because they know you're going to try to sell them on something. No, they look at it because, gee, they taught me something about, divorce law that I didn't know, or they shared some tips about coping with the stress of dealing with conflict in a settlement or something like that. So you're sharing useful information that the target audience might benefit from. And in doing that, you essentially establish yourself as a subject matter expert. And that's what we're headed to. We also want to focus on increasing engagement. So if somebody comments on your stuff, you want to comment back. Or, so there is this two-way conversation that ideally you'd like to build. This does take time, but that's basically the way it works. The final thing is be consistent with your messaging. So if you're talking about a variety of things on social media, it should not be in direct contrast with stuff that you're talking about on your website or any place else that people can find about you. Because, if somebody's really interested in you, they may say, oh, here's their website, let me go and look. Make sure that that information is up to date. A good thing about social media is that if you need to have a business page or a business kind of format, and this is particularly, let's say, for Facebook and Instagram and even Pinterest, you will get metrics. And that's important because you need to know whether what you're doing is effective. It can tell you the kinds of posts, for example, that are getting more interaction. It can tell you how many people see your posts. Now, here's the rub. Unfortunately, social media posts aren't suddenly put in a queue and shown to everybody in the universe just because you posted it. What drives what I see at night when I'm looking on my Facebook page are the other things that I have looked at before. It is not what you would like for me to see. And so that is the basis for a lot of people saying, oh, Facebook is not showing me all of my friends' posts. Well, maybe your friends post about trees and flowers and you only like birds and you look at birds all the time. Facebook's only going to show you birds. So that's the way that works. The other thing is that it's going to show me the things that I'm interested in that other people who appear to be interested in the same thing have reacted to a lot. So if it's in my topic area, but yet it's gotten no response, maybe I have a lower chance of seeing it. So this is the algorithm of any social media trying to keep me on there, trying to make me happy based on things that I've done before. And that's the way that works. How do we get around that? Well, generally speaking, there is a way to promote on social media. You pay and you expand your audience. You say, I'd like to see people in this zip code who have an interest in fitness and they have an income above XYZ and they are interested in antique cars or something like that. You can actually sculpt an audience and pay to be shown to an audience. So that's the beauty of social media. But you don't want to do that without also just having a routine posting schedule so that people can see that you're active. Because if you attract people in, they want to see that you're engaged. So great advantages on social media. You have the ability to establish your expertise because you're sharing content, not because you're selling, but you're sharing content. Yes, it's subtle selling, but it's not that overt selling. It is another road into your business because somebody can go to your page and then actually decide to come to your website or go to your page and just call you. You have the ability to establish a community. People create groups sometimes. Depending on the kind of business you are in, that may or may not be relevant. You may or may not want to develop the time to do that. But the reason why I talked about responding when people comment is that engagement is really important. And the more you engage and the more other people engage with you, the broader your organic reach is going to be. Again, this is the reach, the number of people that you're shown to without having to pay for it. There is a proliferation of new tools. Everybody's out there with, getting, you can go live, you can do short videos like TikTok, but you can do it on Instagram, Facebook Live, you can have groups. And as I said, it's great for targeting if you're going to do ads. There are some exceptions, like if you are going to be promoting that you have a job opening or you're selling a house or you are advertising credit card rates and you're on Facebook, there are going to be some limitations because they want to make sure that there's no discrimination going on. So you're not going to be able to target in the way that you used to be able to, but you can still promote. There are some limitations, and that is you don't own your social media properties and they are prone to change. I belong to multiple groups on social media that specialize in helping clients on social media. And I can't tell you how common it is for people to be saying, do you see this feature? It's gone now. Or where'd the thing go? Or why are they changing this? Or we got rid of that. We don't own the property. We're just there as kind of victims, or we're all along for the ride in a sense. So they are prone to change. And that's why I said your website is your one static place that you can show your business for what it is. Because on social media, even when you go to the page, you got to seek to find, what's my mission? What's my vision? Who do I serve? All of that stuff is just not that apparent. It just gets straight into your content. The other thing is that you don't make the rules, so you can be kicked off. So we all know about that. There's always the challenge of keeping on top of new features. But I can tell you that just because Facebook rolls out a new feature or LinkedIn rolls out a new feature, I'm not necessarily going to use it. It really depends on who my audience is, what I have time to do, and I choose whether it has value. And then, as I mentioned before, organic reach is kind of limited. The number of people who see your posts is limited. The algorithm for any type of social media platform is only showing people what they're interested in, not what you as a business owner are interested in having them see. So that is where paid promotion comes in, and that is what can extend your reach significantly. So when we go back to that tactical calendar that I was showing you, and then that budget should include some money if you're trying to reach people in this way, to extend your reach and to ensure that you reach your target audience. So now I'm going to get into SEO because, as I said, your social media can bring traffic to your website. SEO activities can bring traffic to your website. And part of SEO sometimes is a focused social media activity. So again, I want to tell you what it stands for. It stands for search engine optimization. You are optimizing your website and your other content so that you can be found by search engines. So this is really the process of getting traffic from free results, organic results or natural results. You'll also hear editorial. In other words, I didn't pay, I'm not doing Google ads. It's just that my stuff is so good that when somebody, puts in underwater basket weaving, I am on the first page of results. So we always want to be on the first page of results, because unless somebody's a trained researcher, they're not actually probably going to go to the second page. And so, there are many pages. So the search engines that we're talking about, any search engine, but in particular, Google, Bing, and Yahoo, Google being the master. If I am okay on Google, I don't really care about Bing and Yahoo, because that's just the percentage share of the market that Google has. But also, depending on what you're doing, obviously YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course, Amazon would be considered a search engine. Remember, I said anything that you can put a term into the window so that you can find something, it's kind of a search engine. So why would we do SEO? This is an example of a search engine results page. We call it SERP or SERP, search engine results. So this is the end activity of me typing in professional digital marketing to Google, and Google now gives me results. Many, many pages of results. This is just an excerpt from the top of the page. Google gave me, I believe, 1.6 trillion results in less than a second. This is why people do SEO, because you have to compete to be at the top. And depending on what you're competing for, it's going to be harder or easier. Nothing's ever truly easy, but there you go. You will notice that the first 4 items on this page, they're all ads. Kellogg, Cornell, Yale, they paid to be at the top of the page. It's like, we're not going to play. I'm not even going to waste my time. I'm just going to be at the top of the page. And then you get to your organic, natural, editorial results. So that's where SEO is focused on, making sure that you get found. We will talk about paid advertising. That's what this is. But SEO is the way that you kind of almost have to work with the structure and fundamentals of your website to earn your way to the top of a search engine result. So let's think about it this way. Google, search engines in general, they want to make their customers happy. So they want to provide the most accurate results and the best results. So what does that mean in the mind of a researcher? It means I want the latest information. I want well-organized information. I want information that appears to be valid. And part of that is because a lot of people are talking about it. They go to the website, they're being discussed by others. And not only that, the website's being kept up to date. In other words, they didn't launch it in 2009 and have not touched it since, because the world has changed. And then the other thing that you'll often hear about related to SEO is keywords, which are another way of saying search terms or topics. People search by keywords or topics, and you need to make sure that those topics or keywords are incorporated into your website. So if you are selling, I'm just trying to think about something simple. If you are selling shoes, but your website only refers to them as foot coverings, you have less of a chance of coming up as a search result for somebody who types in shoes. Now, Google is always trying to get better and better, and likely you could be considered in the pool of results for that. But I'm just trying to say, you really want to have as close to the kinds of terms that people are searching for as possible. So we're talking about good information, organized, up to date, with some traffic on the page, and also being shared on social media. Again, there's the social media kind of interfacing with your website. So a keyword is a search term that's being used to find your website. It can be used by people who are looking for your services. So some keywords are more difficult to rank for and competition to get on the top 10 positions. Remember, in a second, you're getting search results. Google's using something, and some things are just harder to rank for than others. Also, it's going to help you to understand what terms are being used to search for your business, and some keywords are more of an indication of I'm getting ready to buy than other keywords. So in this example, I might have the word air conditioner. Well, am I buying an air conditioner, or am I just researching air conditioners because I'm doing a paper in college? I don't know. But if you get down to best air conditioners, it looks like there's somebody who's really trying to understand which brands are the best air conditioners. That's more active thought about the topic, right? But then for me, I might be saying I'm looking for an air conditioner near Paterson, New Jersey, because I have my keys in my hand and I'm about to go out and buy an air conditioner. So there's this kind of range of intent. So with the first term up here, it's so generic, we don't really know that that's really a true buyer. So if I wanted to rank for that, that's great, but it's so generic, and a lot of people might rank for that. But you'll see this, and it's like, okay, this is somebody who's really trying to buy, and my store is near Paterson. I want to make sure that I have, something like that in my website. So this is what we're talking about in terms of keywords kind of ranging. And also, again, the more generic keywords, you might be competing with air conditioners in New Hampshire or air conditioners in Miami. But when you say air conditioner near Paterson, this is an example of a long tail keyword, and it's very specific. I'm not saying that there is no competition for it, but it's certainly less competition than a generic term. When you're thinking about keywords, and you might even think about doing this before you do a website, but this is part of SEO. You would have to do this yourself, because if you're developing a website and you're not engaging in SEO, the person's going to develop a website. They're not going to do a lot of research on keywords and things like that. It's not part of the job. But there are ways to research keywords. You can go to something called Google Keyword Planner in the Google Ad tool. And I'm giving you the link. You will get a copy of these slides, so you'll be able to explore this. But there are tools. So there's a tool called SEMrush. There may be a free version of that you can use. This is a tool that professional SEO people use. So I have a subscription, and the subscription is not cheap. So this is not something that an individual business owner would use, because you're not going to do it but a couple of times, right? The other thing that you can look at is Google Trends. And if you look at how it works, you'll be able to use it. But there are many other tools that have free and paid versions. And you can kind of look up your other websites and see, well, what are your competitors doing? What terms are they using? And you can do an assessment that way. That way you can triangulate on how people search for your business. The reason why this is worth it sometimes is because if you, depending on what kind of field you're in certain fields, we may have language that we use amongst ourselves, but it is not the same language that a customer uses when they talk to us. So that's why we would do this. We just want natural language that our clients or customers use. So clearly, if you had a list of keywords, you'd be saying, how relevant is that term to my business? Is there a lot of searching being done for that keyword? So the more people search for a term, the more competition there is, and it's hard to be at the top. But if it's not searched very heavily, it might be easier to be found, but you get found less, because if nobody searches that way, maybe it's not that beneficial. So there's this triangulation that you're always trying to do to say, okay, well, what do I want to do with my keywords? So they also will look at authority, how authoritative you are as a source. If you're in competition with a highly authoritative source for a particular term, you run the risk of not ranking highly. So like NIH, National Institutes of Health, might rank higher than my local doctor for the term cardiologist, because the NIH has more cardiologists. So they're always trying to figure out, Google is always trying to figure out, how do I decide what to show? How do I make sure that it's authoritative? How do I make sure that people, that this is not some one-off thing that's weird? That's basically what they're trying to get away from, things that are, outliers. So when we think about SEO, I'm not going to go through all of this, but basically you have something called on-page SEO and something called off-page SEO. So when you go to the on-page SEO, that really refers to what's going on your web page, your website, both on the front end and on the back end. So on the front end, it's what are the words that you're using, and is it organized, and can I get to where I need to go? And on the back end, it's stuff like, how are they structuring the headlines and the headers and the titles, and are you optimized for mobile, and do you load fast? All of that stuff is technical stuff. But then there are things that you do outside of your website that kind of link back to your website that can be a wonderful thing. And that's why, even though it's up here at the top, it shouldn't be the biggest thing, social media plays a role. Because if people are talking about your LinkedIn profile and it links back to your page, if people are talking about your Facebook business page and it links back to your website, this is all good stuff. So any place that you can be online, whether you're guest blogging or you're posting on forums or you're, got videos on YouTube, all of this stuff kind of compiles together to create some type of level of authority and expertise and trust that links back to your website. One of the things that I mentioned around mobile optimization on the on page is really important, because Google is assuming that all sites are optimized for the mobile experience. More than 60% of searches today are actually done on the phone. And to be considered mobile ready, it's not just that the site is visible on the phone, but that you can do whatever you need to do on that site, whether it's fill out the contact us form or order the product or download the paper. You should be able to do that easily on a phone. So it's not just that it fits in the screen, it's that it's functional and that it loads quickly, because really after 2 seconds, you start seeing people drop off. They don't wait because people expect to have it now. So this is where having a site that's optimized and is fast is really important. So what happened 5 years ago is 5 years ago stuff. So the other thing is that with your off-page SEO and the content marketing that you're doing in terms of, what are you saying on your social media? What are you doing with your email? All of that stuff means that you have to have content. And the strategy behind selection and inclusion of those keywords and that content, that's content marketing. So this is a piece of it. So your content is what helps you get found. And it's probably the hardest thing for people that are doing social media on a regular basis, just making sure that I got something to post about. This is where that calendar comes up that we showed you before, because you can kind of use that and say, here are the topics that we're going to be talking about. Then you start to go out and find, okay, what am I going to share or create that is relevant to those topics? And maybe I want to post once a week or twice a week or 5 times a week. So I need to have that much stuff for this particular month. So your content is going to help customers learn about you. It is also the basis of your website, because remember, you're talking about what you're going to say to your customers and how you want them to leave with an impression of yourself from your website. It's the basis of your social media posts and, of course, your SEO because of that. And it's going to be driven by your business objectives. This is all stuff that we've kind of, by implication, been through. So not only what you're going to talk about, but how you're going to talk about it. What tone are you going to take? Are you going to talk about it when? Are we going to have a holiday promotion at Christmas time? Probably. Or are we going to do something, in the summer for, schools out? And then where are you going to talk about it? This gets back into the tactical plan. So this is just an example, just like we had that tactical plan. This is the, what are you going to talk about it and when? So I might have an email newsletter. I might have a blog. I might be doing something on LinkedIn. And so these are activities that have to happen in order for this other stuff to happen. This is back to, on the digital side, we're doing the same kind of planning that we do on the non-digital side, because there really isn't a side, it's just the process. So what we would suggest is that you incorporate social media into your website. So you have buttons that you can put onto your website that allow them to share that website on social media, allow a visitor to share it, or you have links from your website to your social media. So you can add a widget that displays your most recent tweets on Twitter. You can add your Facebook profile, link to that profile from your website. You can then put links on your social media that go back to your website. Links from social media are considered high quality. So for example, if you in fact did have a blog from your website, you can place that link on your Facebook business page or on your LinkedIn page. And that's a really good link back to your website, especially as people share that. You want to engage. This is about growing your follower base. Social media pages that have a lot of high quality followers rank better in searches. So when you type in people's names or the name of a business, you'll sometimes not only get their website, but you'll also get their social media pages. So that's just, again, the objective is to be found. If you're found via your social media page, that's great. Found via your website, that's great. Ultimately, there's a purchase in the end. You also want to make sure that you're doing fresh and relevant contact to encourage interaction and making sure that if somebody comments, you're commenting back. Again, we talked already about searching and sharing. So you don't have a business account that is not a public account. So make sure your social media accounts are public. We're not talking about your personal Facebook page. We're not talking about anything having to do with how you check in on your cousins and seeing how the kids are growing and all that other kind of stuff. I am talking about business profiles or business pages. And that's why I said create and use business social media accounts instead of personal profiles, because there's this mistaken feeling like, oh, I don't want people looking at my stuff. Well, they won't look at it if you have a business page. That's what they should be looking at. And then you control your settings on your personal side. You can decide who you share stuff with. You can only share things with your friends, or it may only be visible with people that you've friended on Facebook and not strangers. You decide that. You have that in your hands. The other thing that I would suggest for SEO is to make sure that you claim your Google My Business local listing. And this is the most practical thing that you can do, particularly if you're doing a local business. I have a hair salon, or I'm doing HVAC, or I have an electrical services company or electrical supply. Go to business.google.com. You need to have a Gmail address. And that would be your account. It would be tied to your account. You may notice that you already have a Google listing. If you've ever Googled your business and you see on the right-hand side a panel that has the name of your business, you're like, oh, wow, they already know me. But you do have to claim that if you have not put that there yourself. You claim it so that you can then begin to see metrics associated with it. You can also use it in a sense like a blog. You can share your blog post on your Google My Business listing. So this allows people to find you in the Google Maps. So if you have a brick and mortar store and you need to be found, you can do that. Now, if you don't have a brick and mortar store, you can hide your address. That's a choice that you make. You may not be found in the map, but of course, maybe you don't want people coming to your home. That's fine. That's a choice that you'll make. It also allows you to collect reviews, and reviews are good from an SEO standpoint. If you have a lot of reviews, that's a wonderful thing. And some people, you should focus on getting reviews. So you can ask people for reviews. You can ask clients that you've recently served. You can send them a link and say, would you like to leave a review? And that will help build the number of reviews that you have. So we talked about the natural side, or the SEO, where you're doing these activities. And the thing about SEO is that you're doing this on a repeated basis. SEO is not something that you do once and then you never have to do it again. It is an ongoing activity. So anybody who tells you that in one day or in 1 month you'll be at the top of the page, they're promising something they can't necessarily deliver. SEO, major companies are doing that all the time, because you're always maintaining and culling and getting rid of stuff that doesn't make sense and adding in new stuff. And that is an ongoing activity. That's not just a one-time deal. Paid activity can be a one-time deal. You might decide, I'm just going to do paid ads on Google or on social media, and I'm going to just do it for this period of time. And then after that, it'll go away. We're going to talk about Google ads first. This is an example of a Google ad. Used to be much more colorful, but the black ad color. And then you have the website, you have a phone number, and essentially you've got a limited space in which you can say what you want to say. And when somebody clicks on this, they go to a page. It could be your website. It could be a dedicated landing page, a landing page purpose-built just to capture the people who clicked on the ad. Or they could just click on that ad and call you, never going anyplace. Where they do go is important, and make sure that when they go there, they can do what they easily need to do. And that where they're going is relevant to what you've advertised. If it's not, Google will know this, and it will actually decline to show the ad. And you might not even spend your ad budget. So think about that one thing that you're asking them to do in the ad, and then send them to a page where that is what they can do. That's why many times you'll see a dedicated landing page. It has nothing else on it but what you're asking them to do. This is an example of a focused, dedicated landing page. Somebody clicked on an ad for property in New York City. And if you're interested in buying property, they get this page. Find your next property. We can help you. Fill out the form, click it, or call us now. So call now up here, fill out the form here and send it. That's all they're going to do. They're not spending time letting them look at pictures or showing them, the puppy or whatever it is. They're very focused, because when somebody has clicked on an ad, they've taken a positive step towards taking an action. You do not want to deflect that. So oftentimes people will tell you the best thing for you to do is not to send them to the front door of your website, but to send them to a dedicated page. And that's because your website may have more than one thing on it, and it detracts from what you want them to do. When you set up a campaign in Google Ads, you can basically, you do it by selecting an objective. And this is something that I'm just going to show you. I don't expect that people who don't do this routinely are going to be able to do it. Some people get in and they have some tools to make it a little bit easier to use. All the functionality is not there because it's simplified, and you kind of lack the expertise of an advisor, but you can try to do it yourself and see what happens. You just don't want to spend this kind of money and then not really see good results for it. But you can select your objective. It's either going to be, usually for the kinds of businesses that we are, sales or leads. Sometimes it's just branding, but that would be, I've covered my ability to get sales and leads. I just want to make sure that people, I just want to blanket the market. So sales and leads, you're going to come to a page and it'll say, was it for? And then you select what you want, and it's going to give you different campaign types. And what you select is going to drive you to that campaign type. And you could have the same campaign type that actually shows up in different objective categories, but it doesn't really matter. So this is a search campaign or a display campaign. we're going to talk a little bit about the different kinds of ads that are out there. You can have ads that are focused on bringing traffic to your website, or really they're just branding. I want people to get the brand in their head, you know, Geico, things like that. And then you have the ability, obviously, to look at your metrics for your ads. So in this particular instance, over a period of time, they got 602 clicks. They spent on average, they spent almost $2,000. So this is 1.91K. So that's $1,900. They got 16 conversions, but for them, a conversion is $500. So if they got 16 people calling them because of the ad, and they were able to get 100% of those, that's 16 times 500. So yeah, they probably made money. And you can see that there are different kinds of ads that are here. There's language, the number of impressions each one of the options got, and the cost, what they spent, because pay-per-click works this way. You put it out there and you only pay when a prospect clicks on the ad. If nobody clicks, you don't pay. But over time, if nobody clicks, it starts to get shown less and less because it's obviously not satisfying them in some kind of way. So there's also social media advertising, and it's a very interesting kind of advertising because got to move this thing. The setup is similar to Google ads, but I think you can target a bit broader. You can target more heavily based on interest in addition to just the geography. You do not have the ability to do advertising on Facebook and Instagram unless you have a business account, because you need the business account to get access to the matrix. So you're never going to be able to do advertising with just a personal profile, again, of the type that you're using to keep track of relatives and friends. These are examples of ads. And it's interesting because I have noticed that some people, you know, because the ads that they're being shown are in their areas of interest, you could be clicking on an ad and not necessarily be thinking that it's an ad. You have to be looking for that. I look for it because that's what I do. But notice it said sponsored. Over here, it says promoted. But I've personally seen my husband click on ads and I'm like, why are you clicking on that? And don't you know that as soon as you click on it, anyway, but it was something of interest and it hooked him. So that's the way it's supposed to be. Now, as I said, pay-per-click would be considered what we would call search ads, different kinds of ads for online advertising. Pay-per-click, you only pay when people click. The search ads, the display ads would be, you have an ad that is designed to display on a network of websites like YouTube or Forbes. You've seen where you go to another website and you see ads on the periphery or around the edge of the page, and they might be ads for companies you recognize or companies that you don't. But also in there, you probably do see something called a remarketing ad, because maybe you did click on a pay-per-click ad, but you didn't act. So you are the subject of remarketing. That's why I made a comment, why did you click on that ad? Because now you're going to see that ad everywhere you go. You'll go to YouTube and you're going to see that ad. You'll go to, Forbes magazine and you're going to see that ad. So we call that stalker ads, and people really, they think that's creepy. And it is creepy. However, it works because remember, the person already clicked on the ad. So they are already primed. They clicked on it for a reason. They just didn't buy. There are also just regular social media ads. They are not pay-per-click. They're pay to get to a certain kind of audience. So as I mentioned, pay-per-click. This is advertising done on a search engine like Google. You can also do this on Bing, but usually you need to make sure that you're covered on Google before you decide to spend any money elsewhere. It is driven by keywords, so you're going to be bidding on keywords. Some keywords are more competitive, and what that means is that they cost more than others. So when somebody clicks on the ad, you pay, and your position in the ad is driven by how much you bid. So a premium position would be at the top of the page, maybe first or second ad at the top of the page. But maybe you bid, there's actually ads at the bottom of the page. You could be down there, or you could be at the top of the second page. You don't want to be there, but that's where you could be. So you do need to understand what your budget's going to be so that you can advertise in a way that makes sense. So the key thing about pay-per-click advertising to understand is these are people that are actually searching for your services. They have entered a search term that you think is relevant enough for your business that you were willing to bid to be shown when somebody searches for that. So the question is, what kind of ad is most effective? It's not something that we can just tell you, Shelley, we can't just tell you what kind of ad is most effective because it really depends on your personal situation, and you may have to actually do an experiment to understand that. An experiment is maybe you do different kinds of ads. So we're going to talk a little bit about when and where certain ads should be done, and that may be helpful to you. So that's coming up shortly. But there's no like hard and fast rule to say one kind of ad is more effective than another. There are some ads that are more relevant depending on where the buyer is in the process. So as I mentioned, and this is key, when you do pay-per-click advertising, truly pay-per-click with Google, they have searched for what you have. Now, you still are competing to be shown. And when you're shown, somebody has an option to click on you, and they may not click on you. Maybe they find something else more attractive, but that's basically what's happening. They are in shopping mode. And once again, just to show you what I'm talking about in terms of a pay-per-click ad on Google, these are the top 4 results, and they are all ads. And just understand that there are probably 3 or 4 results on the bottom of the page too. And there may be results on the second page, because it's just page 1 of a 1.6 trillion results, or billion, I don't know. Money I don't have. So this is display advertising. So remember I told you that you go to Forbes or you go to YouTube and you see an ad on the side of the page. Your ad would appear on a Google display network, and these are websites that might be in some way associated with Google or who have agreed to take advertising. More than 90% of the global internet users actually are reached by these kinds of ads. It's a collection of websites, things like Google Finance, Blogger, YouTube, and they show ads. But it's interesting that in this instance, the user is not searching for your service. So if you are going to have a strategy that incorporates display ads, just understand that these are not people that have actually looked for your business or for anything that you do. So I would think that you have a lesser chance of getting a sale from it. But it's part of an overall strategy. This is never done by itself. You never just say, I'm just going to do display ads because I don't need to do anything else, because I think that would be an incomplete execution of a strategy. So again, remember, on the pay-per-click side, somebody's actually looking for you. On the display side, not necessarily. Then you get these remarketing ads. And sometimes that is what you're seeing as a display ad. So this is where you visit the site, and then afterwards you start to see ads for the site everywhere you go. So you start to see Liberty University, wherever that is, or AutoZone, because you went to an AutoZone site. Now that is a place where, okay, that makes sense. A certain percentage of your Google ad pay-per-click visit budget might be worth using for what you would consider, I'm sorry, I have to move something here. That's what you would want to consider after you have covered your pay-per-click budget. So here's an example of a stalker ad. You visited Mr. Reuter, or you clicked on the ad, and then afterwards, Mr. Reuter says hi everywhere you go. So eventually you might give up and call them. That's the hope. And then finally, social media ads. And here's the ultimate situation, because here the user really isn't searching for your products or services. They might have demonstrated an interest in them in the past. They fit your targeting characteristics, But if you're going to do social media advertising, you almost need to think of them as a billboard in the right neighborhood. So very, very different from if you are on the Google side and somebody is actually searching for air conditioner near Paterson, New Jersey, they're looking, versus somebody showing me an ad for an air conditioner when I'm on social media, when I haven't searched for it. I might say, oh, that's interesting. There's a place nearby that I can get service or something like that. So again, it's all in the targeting and the timing here. So this is ultimately where we're building up to. I showed you the types of ads that are out there: display ads, social media ads, pay-per-click, remarketing, and they belong at different points in this funnel that I might have showed you before, where at the very top, you've got that universe of people, they don't know who you are, but then you get people who are aware, slowly become interested, develop a desire, and then take action. Display ads and social media ads are kind of at the top of the funnel. These are top of funnel people. What does that mean? It may take more to move them to purchase than people at the bottom of the funnel who are already typing in search terms and doing research and saying, I am looking for an air conditioner near Paterson, New Jersey. Very, very different. And then the stalker ads are, well, you typed that in, you came to my place. Let me keep showing over and over again until you finally give up and buy from me. So all this is to say, from a digital standpoint, you're looking at the range of kinds of information even that you might provide that gets somebody from the top of this funnel down to the bottom of the funnel. Obviously, it takes money and time to set up an ad. You need to understand how much it's going to cost you. You need to make sure that your ad is working. And sometimes you're spending money while the ad is being optimized in order to get understanding of what ads are working well or not. So it definitely is not a set it or forget it kind of thing. Now, I want to mention very quickly email marketing, because email marketing is considered to be a good return on your effort. However, there is a quote out there that for every dollar invested in email, there's a $38 return. I don't know whether I believe it. I'm not sure that I've seen it, but the cost of doing email is relatively low. So you don't want to miss the opportunity to be in front of your customers. So as you're building your list, continue to build your list and continue to interact with them. This is another way for you to make sure that you are in front of people with your brand. You can do traditional email campaigns or a monthly newsletter. You can do video emails where you send them a video. You can do campaigns on a topic called a drip campaign. All kinds of ways that you can get in front of people. The key thing is, I'm not going to read all this to you, but you just want to make sure that you're using a real email tool, something like MailChimp or Constant Contact or any other kind of tool that allows people to opt out of emails. You do not buy email lists and then email people, because that will be considered spam. You can be marked as a spammer and your email itself can be disabled. You don't want that to be your problem. So your email list is going to come from people who give you their information on social media, filling out contact us forms on social media or your website. Networking, if people give you a card, you say, I'd like to add you to my email list, they say yes, that's considered a good opt-in. Again, not from purchasing a list. And you have the opportunity to incorporate some level of marketing automation. In other words, and we've talked about drip campaigns, that somebody submits a form, you send them an email and welcome them to your email list, and then you wait and you send them another email on a different topic, and you just basically set this up so that once that person's name is in there and they're in this particular flow, they get emails. And it's driven also by if they click on something. If they click, there's a certain type of response. So lots of metrics for email, just like with any other type of digital marketing tool. And again, that's the beauty of digital marketing. So I really just think we just wanted to make sure that you understood what the strategy considerations were and the key performance metrics were for your website, how you can deal with social media and how to select that platform for your business. understanding how advertising works on social media, whether it's, on social media and search engines. And then the value of doing email. I know I covered it very briefly, but it is really important that, sometimes that least expensive thing is the way that you keep yourself in front of a customer and just keep reminding them that you're there so that when they have a need for you, they can go after what it is you want. And you're using a lot of different touch points to drive your business forward. So with that, we'll open up for some quick questions. And I see that there's one that's basically around what types of websites, what do you recommend for small business with a limited budget? Well, if you have a simple need, you're not needing to do e-commerce, there are many types of platforms out there. I am platform agnostic. I tend to work with WordPress because I know that a lot of my customers use WordPress, and there are a lot of developers and other technical people that know how to work with it. But obviously there's Wix out there. There are, like, even GoDaddy is claiming that they do websites. Now, you will work with very, very set templates within them, and they are designed to be kind of easy to use. You have to see whether they fit with what your needs are. I personally don't recommend them, but I always look for flexibility. And I know that my business is going to grow and it's going to change. I don't want to use a platform that if I decide I want to switch to another platform, it's going to be hard for me to do, or I'm going to have to just basically redo that website. And you have some websites that are hosted in the cloud, like a Wix, or I can't even think off the top of my head. And there are others where you pay for hosting at GoDaddy or someplace like that. So in your website, you have your URL, which you buy from someplace. And I shouldn't say buy, you lease that. You always need to keep your URL up to date. In other words, when they tell you that you need to pay to renew it, do that, because if you lose it, you'll have to switch your URL. And if people know what your web address is, you don't want that to happen. So I had somebody who lost their .com website, and we got them the same thing, but .net. You'd think it was simple, but it's not simple, because a lot of people already had them down as .com. So as soon as we could get the .com back, we did. So limited budget, you can limit your bells and whistles. You can limit the size of your website, or you can use some of these website builders like at GoDaddy. They can be inexpensive. I'm just not sure how durable they are, quite frankly. I don't know how they work in terms of being able to expand as your business grows. Are there other questions? You can enter into chat or the Q&A. Okay, it's quiet. So let's see. We have the ability to do consults at the SBDC, so that if there are some very specific questions to your business that you want to ask related to these topics and others, we are available to consult with you. And all you need to do, I think, is reach out at the number on the back end of this page, and maybe Takoa will also comment on this, but this is the number to the SBDC, and they can set you up with a consult at no charge. So you don't have a budget for a website, so you're using Wetsy and okay. If you use Google Workspace for a domain, okay, this is, it says Takoa Bell is going to answer this question live. Are you answering this question, Takoa?
No, it's just being answered right now.
Oh, that's me. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You may be using terminology that I'm not familiar with. So in Google My Business, when you set up that, sometimes they give you the option for a website. People don't generally use that as their only website, but you could try it. If I use Google Workspace, I'm just not familiar with that terminology for a domain. If you're talking about, if I use a Google website, when I'm setting up Google My Business and they give you the option, oh, do you want a web page? You know, some people do that, but they also have their website. So that's the there's the rub. I don't know how effective it is, quite frankly. But I see, you might just go and check Wix out or places like that. It may be that it's very easy for you to do something. You may be fine with just a single page website that says what you do. Now, I don't know if you're using Etsy, you're probably doing some e-commerce, so you could link to your Etsy site. Because you probably, on Etsy, you're going to find people who go to Etsy, but you probably need to reach beyond that. So you got Facebook, you probably also should be on Instagram. I don't know what the type of product it is that you have. So remember, multiple platforms get multiple types of visitors. We will have a recording, and we'll also have slides for the webinar. And once again, you're able to, if you want to get more deeply into your own business challenges, set up an appointment. Other general questions, website, social media, email marketing, marketing. Okay.
Okay, so if we don't have any more questions, I want to say thank you to Cecilia for sharing your expertise with us today.
You're welcome. It was good to be here, and thank you, Nicole, and everyone for sitting on a hot day and going through this.
Yes.
Oh, I see something coming in the chat. Let's see what's going on, just to make sure we're covering. We have a couple of things. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Right, excellent. Well, thank you guys. I mean, this is, I don't know, getting hot out there.
It really is. It really is.
Have a good one.
Thank you. So let me just go ahead and share my screen and stop yours, Cecilia, for just a moment.
Yes.
Okay, so this is similar information as Cecilia did mention. Our email's on there as well as our phone number. So if you find that after the webinar you have a few more questions, if you're viewing the video replay or you're viewing the slides, feel free to send us an email. You can call us and we can set up that one-on-one consultation with you and Cecilia, or you can directly go to our website, www.rnsbdc, to directly request that no-cost one-on-one business consultation with Cecilia. And again, our consultations are with the clients that are within Essex County. So if you're not within Essex County, you can go ahead over to our headquarters website, njsbdc.com. You can type in your zip code or your area, and it will refer you to your local SBDC office. Okay, great. So I'm looking at the chat. Yes, this video will be on YouTube. So those who attended today's webinar will only be able to view or access this video. Okay, at this time, I would like to direct you all to the chat. There, I will be posting some of our upcoming webinars, the link to our website, as well as the direct link to go ahead and request that one-on-one business consultation. Hopefully everyone's seeing that right now. So directly after this webinar, we are hosting a e-commerce webinar, the e-commerce planning part 1, the basics. So in this webinar, you will learn about starting and growing an e-commerce business, understanding the marketplaces and platforms available, as well as learn the best practices to help you build your strategy. So if that is a webinar that is of interest to you, please feel free to register for that. Registration will be open for the next 10 minutes. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and click on that Rutgers Zoom link to register for that webinar. And some of these webinars here are, well, all of these webinars here are available on our website again, www.rnsbdc.com. And this year we are hosting many other webinars and workshops in topics such as financing, access to capital, marketing and branding, e-commerce, credit counseling, startup assistance, state certifications, government contracting, cybersecurity, human resourcing, and so much more. Again, you can sign up for these webinars and workshops via our website or our Eventbrite page, and you will definitely find a webinar or workshop that best fits your business needs. I do want to remind everyone that you will be receiving the video replay as well as the presentation slides within 48 to 72 business hours. So you'll have that with you within 2 to 3 days. After this webinar has ended, in the browser, you will see a survey pop up. Now that survey will help us to adjust our presentations in the future, as well as give us some information on the type of assistance you may be needing for your business. So if you have a minute or two just to complete that, your feedback is very much appreciated. And with that, we will now end today's webinar. I want to thank our presenter again, Cecilia, for your time. And thank you for all of our attendees for taking the time out to participate and ask your questions in today's webinar. And we look forward to seeing you all at our future webinars and workshops. Have a great day, everyone.